My ex wants me back. Give me one reason to stay with you instead, she said during dinner. I asked, can you give me one to stay with you? Paid my half of the bill and left. A few days later, she appeared at my doorstep crying. Hey viewers, before we get into the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want more stories like this. Thanks. I should have recognized the signs the moment the word boring started creeping into her vocabulary. At first, it wasn't an insult. It was just a label. She used it to describe things I saw as responsible. My 401k strategy was boring. My preference for cooking a high-quality meal at home instead of standing in line at a loud, overpriced club was boring. My decision to pay off my car early was boring. Vanessa and I had been together for 3 years. For the first 2, my stability was exactly what she said she wanted. She had come out of a string of chaotic, toxic relationships with men who treated her like an option. I treated her like a priority. I helped her refinance her student loans. I was the guy picking her up from the airport at 2 a.m. without a complaint. I was the one who listened to her vent about toxic coworkers for hours. But somewhere around the 3-year mark, the peace I provided stopped feeling like a sanctuary and started feeling like a cage. A ghost in our relationship had a name. Dylan. Dylan was her college ex. From everything I'd heard over the years, he was a mess. He was spontaneous, which really meant unreliable. He was passionate, which really meant emotionally unstable. He had cheated on her twice, borrowed money he never repaid, and eventually broke up with her over text so he could go backpacking through Europe. For years, she talked about him with nothing but disdain. But in the last 2 months, something had shifted. Dylan's back in the city, she mentioned casually one night while scrolling through Instagram. He started his own branding agency. Looks like he's finally growing up. I didn't think much of it at the time, but the comparison started a week later. Dylan just bought a loft downtown, she said, while we were watching a movie. It's so industrial, exposed brick, floor-to-ceiling windows. It has so much character. Unlike this place. I looked around my apartment. It was a clean, modern 2-bedroom in a good neighborhood. Immaculate. What's wrong with this place? I asked. She let out that heavy, theatrical sigh she'd been perfecting. Nothing. It's just safe. You know, it's exactly what everyone expects. It's beige. That was the word of the month. Safe. Beige. Predictable. The red flag started waving violently last Tuesday. We were sitting on the couch when her phone buzzed. She grabbed it instantly, like a fighter pilot reacting on instinct. She angled the screen away from me, typed a quick reply, and placed the phone face down on her thigh. Who was that? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. Just work, she said, not looking at me. Sarah's having a crisis with the vendor. Sarah, her assistant, had quit 3 weeks ago. I didn't call her out. I didn't raise my voice. I just felt the cold, hard knot form in my stomach. That was the moment I realized I wasn't her partner anymore. I was a placeholder, an insurance policy she was holding on to while shopping for something better. I decided to test things one last time. I made reservations at Lavelle, a French bistro she'd been wanting to try for months. It was expensive, the kind of place you go to celebrate an engagement or a major promotion. I wanted to see if the effort still meant anything to her or if she was already too far gone. Friday night came. I wore the suit she used to say made me look like James Bond. She wore a stunning black dress, but her energy was restless. In the Uber, she checked her phone 4 times. She didn't ask about my day. She didn't say a word about the restaurant. We sat down. The ambiance was romantic. Low lighting, candles, soft jazz. Perfect for a couple in love. Perfect for a breakup, too. She ordered the most expensive wine on the list without even asking me. She drained the first glass quickly. Her eyes darted around the room as if she were searching for an exit or an audience. By the time the appetizers arrived, the silence between us had grown so thick, it felt tangible. I decided to break it. You seem distracted, Ness, I said, cutting into my tartare. Is everything okay? She set her fork down and took a deep breath. For a moment, I thought she might apologize for being distant. I thought she might say she was stressed or anxious. Instead, she looked me straight in the eye, her expression unsettlingly calm. I need to be honest with you, she said. I've been talking to Dylan. I stopped eating. I carefully placed my knife and fork on the edge of the plate. I didn't speak. I just waited. My lack of reaction seemed to throw her off. She wanted to fight. She wanted me to raise my voice so she could call me controlling. When I didn't, she had no choice but to keep talking to fill the silence. He reached out a few weeks ago. She continued, her voice gaining a strange, almost arrogant confidence. He apologized for everything in the past. He's changed, Mark. He's doing really well. He has this energy about him now. It's magnetic. He wants us to try again. He says he never stopped thinking about me." She paused, taking a sip of wine, watching me closely for any sign of jealousy. "Okay," I said flatly. "Why are you telling me this here?" She leaned forward, resting her elbows on the table. This was the moment, the pitch. "Because I'm confused," she said. Though she didn't look confused at all. She looked empowered. "I care about you, Mark. I really do. You're great. You're reliable. You're safe. But Dylan, he's a risk. He's excitement. He makes me feel alive in a way you just don't." She leaned back, crossing her arms, putting a physical barrier between us. "So here's the situation," she said casually, as if she were choosing between salmon and steak. "He wants me back. I have to make a choice. But I feel like I owe you a chance to advocate for yourself. So give me a reason." I blinked. "Excuse me? Give me a reason to stay with you instead of him." She repeated slowly, enunciating every word as if I were a child. "Tell me why I should pick you. Sell me on us. Because right now, safe isn't winning." The sheer audacity of it took my breath away for a second. She was holding an auction for her affection in the middle of a crowded restaurant. She genuinely believed she was such a high-value prize that I would start listing my qualifications, begging her to recognize my worth. Competing with a ghost from her past who had treated her terribly. She expected me to plead. She expected me to say, "But I love you. I pay for everything. I am loyal." Something inside me snapped, not loudly, quietly. A final, definitive click, like a door locking. I looked at her, really looked at her. I saw the entitlement in her eyes, the absence of empathy, a woman who saw relationships as transactions and people as stepping stones. I reached for my napkin and wiped my mouth. "You want a reason?" I asked softly. She smirked, convinced she had already won. "Yes, give me one reason." I signaled the waiter. He came over immediately. "Check, please," I said. Vanessa frowned. "Mark, we haven't even ordered mains yet." "Don't be dramatic." The waiter placed the black folder on the table. I opened it. The bill was $140. The wine she ordered accounted for $80 of it. I pulled out my wallet, took out three $20 bills and a $10. $70, exactly half, and placed the cash on top of the receipt. Then I stood up. "Mark." Her voice sharpened, a mix of confusion and irritation. "What are you doing?" I looked down at her. She seemed smaller now. "You asked me for a reason to stay with you," I said, my voice calm but loud enough for nearby tables to hear, and I realized something. "What?" she snapped. "Can you give me one reason to stay with you?" Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She was stunned. The question had never even crossed her mind. "I offer loyalty, stability, and respect," I said, buttoning my suit jacket. "You offer confusion, comparison, and an ex-boyfriend? You're texting under the table." "I'm not competing for a job I already have, Vanessa. And I'm definitely not competing for a position that's already filled." "You can't just leave," she hissed, her face turning red as she noticed people staring. "You can't leave me here with the bill." "I paid my half," I said. "You wanted independence and excitement. Paying for your own $80 bottle of wine is pretty exciting. Call Dylan. Maybe he'll pick up the tab." I turned and walked toward the exit. "Mark," she shouted, "if you walk out that door, we are done. Do you hear me? Done." I didn't look back. I pushed through the heavy glass doors and stepped into the cool night air. I checked my pulse. Slow, steady. I pulled my phone from my pocket, opened her contact, and hesitated. Blocking her now would be too easy. It would make it look like I was hurt. I didn't want to look hurt. I wanted to look indifferent. I slipped the phone back into my pocket and hailed a cab. I was done, but I had a feeling she was just getting started. The silence lasted exactly 20 minutes. That's how long it took for her to realize I wasn't waiting outside the restaurant, and that I wasn't coming back to cover the rest of the bill. I was back at my apartment, calmly folding her clothes into a cardboard box I'd pulled from the recycling bin, when my phone started vibrating on the coffee table. It wasn't a call. It was a flood of texts. "Vanessa, 8:43 p.m. Are you serious right now? Vanessa, 8:44 p.m. You are actually psychotic. Everyone is staring at me. Vanessa, 8:46 p.m. Come back here and pay for this." My card got declined. "You know I don't get paid until Friday? This is financial abuse." I stared at the screen. Financial abuse. That was rich, coming from someone who had just tried to use her ex-boyfriend as leverage to negotiate a better deal in our relationship. I didn't respond. I didn't block her either. In situations like this, documentation matters. I took a screenshot of the messages, especially the one where she admitted her card was declined. It proved she had ordered an $80 bottle of wine, with no intention or ability to pay for it herself. I finished packing her things. It didn't take long. Over 3 years. She had slowly moved into my life. But looking at the box, she hadn't really added much to it. Just clutter, high-end skincare products I paid for, clothes she bought to impress other people, and a few framed photos of us where she looked great. And I was out of focus. I placed the box outside my front door, took a picture, and sent it to her. Me, 9:15 p.m. Image attachment, your things are outside. Do not ring the bell. Her reply came instantly, sharp and venomous. Vanessa, 9:16 p.m. I hate you. You are insecure, jealous, and boring. Dylan is picking me up. He treats me like a queen. Enjoy your sad, lonely life. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, poured myself a whiskey, and slept better than I had in months. The smear campaign began the next morning. This is the part of the breakup playbook narcissists love the most. If they can't control you, they try to control how others see you. I woke up to 3 missed calls and a long text from Emily, Vanessa's best friend. Emily and I had always been on good terms. I'd helped her move apartments twice, but clearly the narrative had always been twisted. Emily, 10 a.m. I can't believe you. Vanessa just called me crying. She said you screamed at her in the middle of a restaurant, threw money in her face, and abandoned her there because she mentioned an old friend. I thought you were a nice guy, Mark. Clearly I was wrong. You need to apologize to her. Now, I sighed. Vanessa had conveniently left out the ultimatum. Of course she had. In her version, she was the victim of a jealous tyrant, not someone who tried to start a bidding war for her own affection. I could have ignored it, but the professional in me knew that letting a lie spread unchecked damages your reputation. I didn't get emotional. I didn't defend my character. I just presented the facts. Me, 10:05 a.m. Hi, Emily. That's an interesting version of events. Here's what actually happened. She told me she wanted to get back with her ex Dylan. She asked me to give her a reason to choose me over him. I declined to participate in that competition. I paid exactly 50% of the bill and left. She's free to be with him now. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Emily was typing, deleting, and retyping. The cognitive dissonance was hitting hard. Me, 10:07 a.m. Also, she texted me last night saying Dylan was picking her up and treating her like a queen, so she shouldn't be crying. She got exactly what she wanted. Emily never replied. I later found out she had screenshotted my message and sent it to their group chat, asking, "Gee, Vanessa, if it was true." Vanessa reportedly had a meltdown, claiming I was twisting her words, but the seed of doubt had already been planted. Her friends knew I wasn't a liar. For the next 3 days, I became a ghost. I went to work. I went to the gym. I ate clean. Vanessa, on the other hand, went on a full PR blitz. Since I hadn't blocked her on Instagram yet, I kept an eye on the timeline for my own awareness. I saw the performance she was putting on. It was pathetic. Post 1. Sunday morning. A photo of 2 coffees and a bagel at a trendy cafe. The caption, "Finally with someone who matches my energy #upgrade new chapter." A male hand with a distinctive tattoo held the second cup. Dylan. Post 2. Monday night. A blurry video inside a club. She was dancing, holding a vodka bottle with a sparkler. Caption, "Living my best life. No more holding back." She was trying to provoke a reaction. She wanted me to watch her story so she could see my name on the viewer list. She wanted confirmation that I was paying attention. I didn't give her that satisfaction. I used an anonymous viewer to check her page. To her, I had disappeared completely. But if you looked closely, the cracks were obvious. In the coffee photo, she wasn't smiling. She was pouting at the camera. The club video was on a Monday night. Who goes clubbing on a Monday? Unless they're trying too hard to prove they're having fun. And then there was Dylan. I knew his pattern. He was a love bomber. He'd shower a woman with attention for a week, get what he wanted, money, sex, or a place to stay, and then lose interest. Vanessa had just handed him a win. She left her stable, boring boyfriend for him. His ego was satisfied, but ego burns fast. On Wednesday, 5 days after the dinner, the silence finally broke, but it wasn't Vanessa. It was a DM from a guy I vaguely knew. One of Dylan's friends, Mike. I've met a few times at parties years ago. Mike, yo man, weird question. Are you and Vanessa done? Me? Yeah. Why? Mike, okay, cool. Just checking. She's been crashing at Dylan's place since Friday, and it's getting intense. I think she thinks they're dating. Dylan told us she's just a placeholder until his actual girl gets back from her internship in London next week. Just thought you should know before it gets messy. I stared at the screen. A placeholder. The irony was razor sharp. She had called me a placeholder. She had called me safe. And all along, she was just a temporary fill-in for Dylan. Someone to occupy space until his real relationship resumed. She had burned everything down chasing an illusion. She had burned everything down chasing an illusion. I thanked Mike and set my phone aside. I didn't warn her. Why would I? She wanted excitement. She wanted risk. She was about to get both in abundance. The crash came 48 hours later. I was sitting on my balcony reading when my phone lit up. Vanessa, 11:42 p.m. Mark. Vanessa, 11:45 p.m. Are you awake? Vanessa, 11:50 p.m. Please answer. It's an emergency? I didn't respond. Vanessa, 12:05 a.m. He kicked me out. He's a monster. I have nowhere to go. My parents are out of town. Please, I just need a place to sleep. I took a sip of water. The professional side of me analyzed the request. A tenant who violated the lease, caused damage, and voluntarily left was now asking to return. Application denied. I turned off my phone and went to bed. The knocking started at 7 a.m. on Saturday. It wasn't polite. It was frantic, desperate, pounding that rattled the doorframe. I was already awake, making coffee, enjoying the quiet of an apartment that no longer smelled like her overly sweet perfume. I checked the peephole. Vanessa stood there. She looked nothing like the composed woman in the black dress from Friday night. She wore gray sweatpants that were, too. Oh, short, a stained hoodie I recognized as Dylan's, and she was soaked. It wasn't raining, which meant she'd either been crying or sweating heavily. Her hair was tangled. Her mascara had streaked down her face in dark lines. She looked like a mess. She looked like consequences. I unlocked the door but didn't open it fully. I stood in the doorway, blocking the entrance with my body, holding a mug of coffee, an unspoken barrier between her chaos and my calm. Mark, she choked out, her voice raw. Oh my God, thank you. I didn't think you would open. She tried to step inside, assuming the old dynamic still applied, assuming I was still the safety net, the fixer. I didn't move. She walked into my shoulder and stopped, confused. Mark, she whispered. Let me in, please. I'm freezing. You can't come in, Vanessa, I said. My tone was calm, conversational, not angry, just factual. She blinked, wiping her nose with the sleeve of the dirty hoodie. What, Mark? Stop. I'm serious. Dylan, he's crazy. He threw my bag out on the street. He laughed at me. He told me I was... She broke down, a harsh, uneven sob tearing out of her. He told me I was just a warm-up for his girlfriend. Can you believe that? She looked at me with wide, pleading eyes, expecting me to share her outrage. She wanted me to be angry for her. She wanted me to say, that bastard, come in. I'll take care of you. I can believe it, I said. Dylan has always been exactly who he is. You just didn't want to see it because you were too busy comparing me to him. I know, she cried. I was stupid. I was confused. He manipulated me, Mark. He got in my head. He made me think we had something real, but it was all a lie. You were right. You were right about everything. She reached for my hand. I pulled it back calmly. I'm sorry. She rushed on, the words spilling out now. I'm so sorry about the dinner. As drunk. I was stressed. I didn't mean any of it. I love you. You're the only one who's ever actually treated me like a human being. Please, just let me come in, take a shower, and we can talk. We can fix this. I promise I'll never speak to him again. I'll block him right now. Look. She fumbled for her phone, her hands shaking. Vanessa, I interrupted. Stop. She froze. You're not listening, I said. There's nothing to fix. You didn't break a vase. You didn't forget an anniversary. You fired me. I didn't fire you, she protested. You auditioned me, I corrected. You sat there, ate the food I was paying for, and told me I had to compete for your loyalty. You called me boring and safe and said you wanted excitement. I gestured vaguely at her disheveled state. Well, look at you. You got excitement. You got drama. You got the roller coaster you wanted. You're standing on a doorstep at 7 a.m., crying because a toxic guy treated you like trash. That's the most exciting thing that's happened to you in years. Congratulations. Her face collapsed. The sadness vanished, replaced by a flash of familiar narcissistic rage. You're being cruel, she snapped. This isn't you. You're supposed to be the nice guy. You're supposed to support me. I was the nice guy, I said, and you told me that wasn't enough. You said nice was boring. So I'm trying something new. Mark, I have nowhere to go, she shouted. My parents are in Florida. My friends are sick of hearing about this. I have no money. Do you want me to sleep on the street? That sounds like a logistical problem, I replied. And since I'm no longer your partner, it's not my problem to solve. After 3 years, she said quietly, playing her final card. 3 years meant nothing to you. They meant everything to me. They meant everything to me, I said. And for the first time, I let a trace of the pain show, just enough for her to know it was real. I was building a life for us. I was saving for a ring. I was planning a future. But you weren't building with me, Vanessa. You were waiting in the lobby for something better to come along. You didn't leave because of 3 years. You left because you thought you found an upgrade. You came back because the upgrade failed. I took a sip of my coffee. I'm not the backup plan. I'm not the safety school you settle for when you don't get into Harvard. I'm the prize, and you lost me. She stared at me. For the first time, she understood. There was no anger in my eyes, no jealousy, just indifference. I looked at her the way you look at a stranger who knocked on the wrong door. Here, I said, reaching into my pocket and pulling out a $20 bill. This is for a cab to Emily's place. I'm sure she'll take you in if you tell her the truth this time. I held it out. She looked at the money with disgust, then snatched it from my hand. I hate you, she hissed. You think you're so perfect? You're going to die alone. Maybe, I said. But I'll die in a peaceful house that I paid for, without anyone checking their phone under the dinner table. I stepped back. Goodbye, Vanessa. I closed the door. I locked the deadbolt. Click. I rested my forehead against the cool wood for a moment, listening. I heard her sob once, loud and broken. Then the elevator dinged. Then silence. Epilogue. The upgrade. 6 months later, I was sitting in a coffee shop downtown, working on my laptop. Life had been quiet, peaceful. My savings account was growing. My skin had cleared up. I had started seeing a woman named Claire, an architect who found my boring financial planning incredibly attractive and never once compared me to an ex. That's when I saw Vanessa. She walked past the Y. And now, she looked better than she had on my doorstep. Clean clothes, hair done. But she looked tired. She was with a guy who was shouting into his phone, completely ignoring her. She trailed behind him, carrying 2 heavy shopping bags, staring at the back of his head with a mix of annoyance and resignation. It wasn't Dylan. It was just another version of him. Another exciting project she was trying to fix. Another chaotic man she had chosen over peace. She turned her head and saw me through the glass. Our eyes met. I didn't wave. I didn't smile. I didn't frown. I just looked at her, then looked back down at my laptop and kept typing. In that moment, I realized something. The title of my story had changed. It wasn't about her betrayal anymore. It wasn't about the dinner. It was about the reason I gave myself to leave. She wanted a reason to stay. I never gave her one. But she gave me something better. She showed me exactly who she was. Before I signed a lifetime contract, I took a sip of my coffee. Black. Simple. Exactly how I like it. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share your thoughts in the comments.